Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Cooking with Nick. This is going to be like the antithesis of the last video I did, where I was hoping to show you that cooking simple snacks for cycling is easier than, or more cost effective than buying them constantly. My dad and I have a big ride planned soon, and when I'm out for more than say 8 hours, I can't stomach just eating flapjack and generic bike carbs like in your bottle or gels or whatever. I get really fed up of it, so I'm going to cook some savoury food that I take out on bike rides as snacks. It's big faff, honestly. I'm not trying to sell it as an easy option, but for how often are you going out for more than 8 hours? For the occasions that I do, I think it's worth the hassle. Sure, you can just stop at cafes, but I always want savoury food, and if you stop at cafes like even 3 times on a ride like that, it adds absolute minimum 20 minutes each time, and that's an hour of your day that's already really long gone. So I really like carrying something savoury with me. What I'm going to do today is like rice rolls. They're not sushi as such, but using sushi rice. Basically like they are on the packet, except I leave them as a tube. And the reason I like them is because when you wrap them in the seaweed, they're basically self-contained, so they can be in your back pocket. I'll wrap them in a bag, obviously, but you can grab them out and they're not going to fall apart, and you can have a bite and you can put them back and they hold together. And obviously rice is mega carb dense anyway, but you can make this completely savoury. The way you treat this rice, I'm not doing anything fancy with it whatsoever. I am following the back of the pack instructions. It says wash 250 grams of sushi rice. From experience, for both me and my dad, that is too much rice. I'm going to do 200. Okay, that's 200 grams. First off, you wash it, so I'm just going to run an excess of cold water over it. Drain and repeat until it's clear. So you can see this time there's basically no excess starch. Even if I give it a swirl, nothing's really coming out. I'm not a perfectionist, I'm very much a that'll doist. So that'll do for me. It then says leave to soak for 15 to 30 minutes. If you're interested, soaking allows the rice to absorb water right to the centre of each grain before even cooking. Oh no, for even cooking. Good reading skills, Nick. So I'm just going to set this aside. So I'm going to get on with the filling. I'm going to do 2 different fillings for this ride. Like I say, I think the most important thing with these is that the rice is where I'm really getting my fuel from. So the filling is just to make it interesting. I'm not so worried about the nutritional balance of the filling, but I'm vaguely thinking, really, I still need carbs. I can throw a bit of protein in there, but I'm going to do plant-based protein sources today. The reason for that is not that I'm vegan or vegetarian. I'm absolutely fine with meat, or in this case, it would be lovely to have fish in there. I'm going to potentially be carrying these in my back pocket for 8, 10, 12 hours. And tomorrow it's forecast to be like 25 degrees, plus the heat from my back. These are going to get hot and sweaty, and they're going to be held hot and sweaty for a while. Like, even being completely plant-based, that's food poisoning waiting to happen. Don't need to throw in meat and fish to like ferment in my back pocket and stress me out. So the 2 fillings I'm going to do, I use this packet as a point of reference. I'm not actually using this. I've got leftovers of an actual spinach and chickpea curry I made last night, so I'm just going to use that. It's a very nice recipe. Straight out of a recipe by Nisha Katona, who opened a very successful chain of restaurants in the UK called Mowgli. First one was in Liverpool. She's a Scouser, so yeah, I've got some loyalty there. And the other thing I'm going to make as a filling is a potato and tofu satay. It's literally just cubed potato, tofu. I'll sort of saute them together and make a very, very rough satay sauce. I'm sure it's the sort of thing that any authentic Chinese chefs would be disgusted by, but it's just a bit of peanut butter, lime juice and soy sauce to mix together with some coriander. Just adds a bit of flavour and interest. So I won't include me making this filling in the actual video probably, but I'll film all of it now and I'll edit it out, but I'll save the footage. So if people say, oh, I'm really interested in seeing that, I will include it just so that people can have an idea of how to make it, but I doubt that'll be the case. So apologies if the sound quality gets worse. The oven's on, stuff's frying, it's noisy now. I wanted to show you that my rice is nearly done. So the rice out the pack has this kind of translucency about it. The soaked rice, when it gets to be done, is like white. It's properly white. Don't know why that is. So next step, I'm going to drain the water that it's soaked in, and I'm going to follow the instructions again. Add washed rice to 330 mils of fresh cold water. Okay, so it said for 250 grams of rice, and I did 200. Let me get the calculator up. 330 times by 0.8. 264 mils. Well, that'll be easy to measure. Simmer on a low heat for 10 minutes with the lid on. My rice has finished cooking. After 10 minutes of simmering, you're meant to turn it off, but leave the lid on, and leave it for another 10 minutes to absorb all of the water. On the side, this is how to season your sushi rice. So to that, it says to add 3 tablespoons of rice vinegar, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of salt. What I'm going to do instead is slightly different, which is to add the rice vinegar as it says, and then I'm going to add mirin, which is sweet rice wine. It's another way of doing. You see what it looks like now. My rice vinegar. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of mirin because it is sweet, and I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. It looks gooey, doesn't it? It's meant to, because that's how you stick it together. For those of you thinking, why on earth is Nick doing this at all? The reason I discovered this as something that I like eating on the bike is that when we were in Thailand, me and my dad and a load of other people, the only places to stop, we went around northern Thailand for 8 days, starting from Chiang Mai. But we went around some genuinely pretty remote areas, but every town, every medium-sized town has a 7-Eleven, and in 7-Eleven they have these pre-packaged sushi triangles, and it's just sushi rice wrapped in nori with some sort of fish or vegetable filling. And by day 4, every time we were passing a 7-Eleven, I was like, I want to go in and get me a sushi triangle. This is my effort to replicate that. So it's the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm going to wrap my sushi wraps. I've cooled the rice adequately. Filling's kind of cooled. So, out comes a piece of seaweed. In fact, 2 pieces of seaweed. We'll stick them together. Some rice. I want to spread it relatively thin. Christ. I don't do this often enough, really. Which means that every time it's I have to learn again. And then you just roll over with the cork mat, the bamboo mat, sorry. And hopefully, if you've done it right, there'll be just enough filling that the rice meets the rice on the way around, which I think I've just about managed. And I'll fold it in and compress. And I'll fold back. I'll lift this side up, and I'll seal with some water, which is probably a cardinal sin, because you want your seaweed to be crispy, but for me it's not going to be. So here's my filled roll, stuff falling out the bottom, of course. Don't know why I held it up like that, thinking it'd work. And these fit nicely in a bag to fit inside a jersey. So I'm just going to get to work filling. So we're all done. I finished the rolling. You can see I've got flapjack here as well. I just did that in the background. I can't pick it up yet because it's still too hot, so it's floppy. But you see these rolls, they are not going to be winning any awards. But I think they'll be tasty. And they'll hold together. They could do with a bit of time to rest. And then I'll bag them up. And they'll be ready to go in the back pocket and fuel us. Hello guys, welcome to my prep video. Please excuse me if my speaking is really weird, by the way. I got a filling done this morning and my mouth is like still numb and swollen. This ride is about what my dad and I have planned for tomorrow, which is the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. Is that how it works? Is it everywhere? Anyway, yeah, longest day of the year. We thought we would do our longest ever ride. So let me just go over to Strava and show you roughly what we've got planned. So the idea is approximately that we're replicating the elevation profile of the Mallorca 312. We watched like Phil and Ed's videos and saw how much fun everyone was having, and we thought we'd like to try something along those lines. And using Wales as our mountainous terrain and England as our flat terrain, you can kind of replicate the mountainous start, flat finish. Granted, it takes us a while to get out into the mountains, as opposed to going straight up out of Pollença, like the 312 does. And it takes us longer to get out of the mountains as well, just by necessity, because of that. But give or take, you can see that we can replicate the profile. So 5 AM tomorrow, my dad's coming round, and we're setting off. The route is out, down to Wales, obviously. This is over what I call the Hulkin Hills. Then out of Denbigh up Mynydd Hiraethog. So you've seen the Road to Hell route. This is basically the Road to Hell climb, but we're just doing the A road rather than the steeper back road, which is the Road to Hell. Down into Snowdonia. Then this is up Pen Machno climb. Up and over my favourite road on earth that I've banged on about in all the Snowdonia videos, but this is backwards, so not the way I've done it. I've never done it this way, and I might treat myself to having a full gas effort on that, just because I love that road. Down there, up the easier side of the Bulk of Groes, so not the evil climb. Still a significant climb, but not the Bulk of Groes proper, but up to that point. Over here, Nant. Down here, Nant Pass back to Bala. Probably have food in Bala at 180 kilometres or just over 100 miles in. Over the Berwyn Pass, which some of you will recognise from a previous video. And then we're down into England, over our final climb, down into Oswestry, and back along the flats. And just like the Mallorca 312, these flats are boring as anything, but hey-ho. And all the way home, I know it is meant to be like the 312, but we decided we'd round it up to do the Imperial double, fingers crossed. So some stuff I'll include in this is talking about how I've prepared for this. My dad and I did a recon ride simply because we didn't know these roads. Basically from here, we didn't know any of this, and that's like the last 100k. So it's quite important to check that those roads are suitable. And sure enough, they were, so this went well. And actually, it was really reassuring to get this in my legs. I think doing 245k at under 9 hours, feeling pretty positive about that. So I was glad to do that, and I'm sure my dad will too. One thing you'll note, though, is that this route is nowhere near as mountainous. So tomorrow, it's going to be all about pacing on the hills. We're just going to accept that the hills are going to be slow. What I personally did on Saturday was went out alone, basically to see what my kind of tempo is. So when me and my dad do these rides, I sit on the front the whole time, basically, to make sure we're going as fast as we can. We do the hills at his pace, and the flats and the descents, I will just sit on the front at my upper zone 2 and try and push the pace on. And it means my dad can recover as much as possible in the wheels, so that he can put a bit more effort in on the hills, and all in all, things are a bit faster. So I wanted to feel what it was like for me to be solo, 5 hours, as hard as I could.
Hello YouTubers. There's no on camera. There's no on bike footage today. I honestly don't know what I'll do with this footage. Maybe put it in another video. But my dad couldn't come out today for various reasons, so I'm doing a really boring ride, which is around the Cheshire lanes, which, as you know, I hate. Just trying to do 100 miles imperial ton, sub 5 hours is my training plan. To many of you that'll be easy. I've never done a solo sub 5 hour 100 miles. The intention is not to go on moving time. I want to go on elapsed time. So that includes stops, traffic lights, etc. Obeying all the laws, keeping all my stops to a minimum. So far averaged 35.9, which should be enough. Average power around 250. That's what I want for the whole 100. I'll check in later. Yeah, I'm about an hour and a bit in, so going well so far. I have had a bit of a tailie, so although I haven't gone straight in any one direction, I'm benefiting at the moment, and I know I'm going to pay for that later.
Well, I wouldn't say this was as hard as I could actually on Saturday. It was steadily tempo the whole time, and I was very tired by the end, but at no point did I think, wow, this is a max effort. It was just a steady effort.
Hey guys, we are getting close to 4 hours in now. I'm up on schedule, but I'm losing time pretty much constantly now. Since I've turned into the headwind, that was always part of the plan, so I'm not worried. I'm only losing time that I deliberately already invested, so I'm happy. So 3 hours 40 in. I've averaged 255 watts, normalised 270, so that's about 4.2 for me. 4.2 for 4. Gotta be happy with that, haven't you? Right, I am less chipper than I was. Who likes riding into a headwind? Yeah, I'll probably check in when I get home.
So yeah, 174k. Weighted average power of 257 watts. That's 3.95 watts per kilo for me. So I'm pretty happy with that for 5 hours. It occurred to me when I got home on Saturday that this ride's going to be done on a Tuesday, and I'd given myself essentially 2 days of recovery. So I felt like a bit of a knob. Went out for a spin with Rianne on yesterday, a really steady, look at that, weighted average power of 97 watts. It was just to loosen my legs off, fill myself with cafe food, it was great, and come home. And I felt way better afterwards. So today's a complete day off. I'm not doing any exercise today. And tomorrow, on the road. Final thing to note, weather for tomorrow looks pretty good. Look at that, starting 12, ends 18. We can put in different locations on the route, see what the weather looks like. It's going to be hotter in Bala. That's nice. What about Festiniog? Sometimes the weather's different, even though they're quite close. Just because Festiniog's in the mountains. Also good. Very little chance of rain. And finally, we'll do Oswestry. Boom. Oswestry is going to be hot. So that's reassuring because it means I don't have to fill my pockets with waterproofs and warm gear and stuff. It means I can be t-shirt and shorts, have a very light rain cape because it's the UK. I don't believe that 5%. Not at all. It will rain at some point, I guarantee it. So having a light waterproof is useful. And yeah, that's it. But yeah, very excited. So hopefully there'll be a good video in it. Hopefully this prep video isn't too boring. And see you in the next one.